It's that time of the week when former football and sports stars share their stories. It happens all right here, right now, on Thursday Night Tailgate. With your hosts, Chris-Mascaro and bob-lazzari. Guys, have some fun. Enjoy the guests. Take it away.
Hey, thank you, Joe. Good evening, everybody. Chris-Mascaro and bob-lazzari here with you on Thursday Night Tailgate, your home for interviews and conversations with the greatest players in the history of the NFL, also the home of the NFL Alumni Association and the Gridiron Greats. TNT is brought to you by the great folks over at Kyvan Foods, Coastal Orthopedics, the Louisville Slugger Museum and Factory, and our friends at the French Lick Resort. Before we get into tonight's show, folks, I want to send out a very special happy birthday wish to my son, Jonathan, who turned 16 today. I love you very much, buddy. I'm so proud of the wonderful young man you've become. We also want to wish a very happy birthday to a couple of great friends of ours here on the show, former Steelers defensive back Mike Logan and Georgia Tech Hall of Famer and former Buffalo Bills running back Joe Burns, who was with us here a couple of weeks ago. Fellas, happy birthday to you guys as well. I hope everybody is having such a wonderful day today. I also want to remind everyone that next week we're going to be celebrating our birthday. It's going to be our 5th anniversary show here on Thursday Night Tailgate. Plus, we're going to be inducting 7 great people into our Thursday Night Tailgate Guest Hall of Fame. And this year's class of inductees includes Levon Kirkland, who is our very first guest way back on the very first show in September of, 2011 now, right? Our good friend Tony Collins, he's going to become a TNT Hall of Famer. Thanks to Tony for all the wonderful things that he has done and meant to our show. Our regular contributor, Paul Alexander from Root Sports Pittsburgh. Very excited to have Paul as a member of our Hall of Fame, so look forward to that. Former Chiefs wide receiver Eddie Kennison and another former Chiefs wide receiver J.J. Burden. They're both going to go into the Hall next week. As well, former Saints and 49ers defensive back Toy Cook, who has made the second most appearances on the show next to Jim Everett, who will join us later in the show. And then, of course, former Chargers, Vikings, and Giants defensive back Bensie Glenn will round out this year's Hall of Fame inductee class. So it's going to be a great night next week. We certainly hope that you'll be a part of it and join us on the show. It's something we look forward to all year. So a great show on tap for you next week. Again, please come back and be a part of it with us. Tonight, Bob and I have a bunch of great friends that are going to be back with us as a part of the show. Plus, we have one of our really great supporters of the show that we're excited to have joining us for the very first time. First up tonight is going to be Prairie View A&M head coach Willie Simmons. It has been such a joy getting to know Willie over the last couple of years. He'll join us about 15 minutes from now. At the bottom of the hour, former Patriots Pro Bowl running back Tony Collins. He'll join us for our 5-star picks of the week. Following Tony, Rudy Reyes from the Rude Dog Show, which is available on SoundCloud and WBLZSports.com. He's going to be making his TNT debut with us. Rudy and I both Steelers fans, so look forward to chatting a little Steelers with Rudy here a little bit later in this hour. We'll kick off hour number 2 with a return visit from former Colts and Seahawks defensive back Nesby Glasgow. And then we'll round out the show with 2 of the biggest trash talkers in our Thursday Night Tailgate Fantasy Football League, former Rams Pro Bowl quarterback Jim Everett and the quarterback from the Houston Power of the Women's Football Alliance, Jennifer Kadlitz. Now, fortunately for all of us, they both lost last week. I beat Jim, and former Steelers and Jaguars defensive back Ainsley Battles beat Jen. So they should be a little subdued, but I can't guarantee much. But they'll be here with us and talking all kinds of things when they join us about 90 minutes from now. So we're going to have a lot of fun tonight on the show. So sit back, relax, let us take your mind off everything else going on in your life for the next couple of hours. So let's start it off by bringing in my co-host, Mr. Bob-lazzari. Bob, how are you tonight, my friend?
Hey, Chris, I want to wish your son, Jonathan, a happy birthday as well, and he shares it with some good company, and he's got a great role model to guide him, so give him my best, sir.
I appreciate that. So, Bob, we'll kick off the show here. I kind of wanted to get your thoughts on what do we learn from week 1 in the NFL. First, with the Patriots beating the Cardinals in Arizona, a game, both you and I picked incorrectly last week in our 5-star picks of the week. Does that game say more about just absolutely what an evil genius Bill Belichick is and his ability really to take his 53 and beat you and probably turn around and take your 53 and beat his? So does it tell us more about, just how great he is, or are we overestimating a little bit the Cardinals? Because you and I have them going very far in the playoffs this year.
Yeah, I don't think we overestimated Arizona, Chris. I think it's more of the latter, what you said about New England, and it was incredible because the majority of people online, anywhere that you looked, prognosticators all over the place had picked the Cardinals. And look, I mean, you're playing without Brady and Gronk, and you're going on the road in the desert to a good team. I mean, it made no sense. Well, guess what, Chris? It's still the Patriots. I know Tony Collins picked them because it was just the Patriots. That's almost not a fair pick, is it, Chris? But he's going to get credit for it. But anyway, I mean, think about it. You got down 10-0 to a team coached by Belichick, and that's basically all I had to see. I said, this guy is such a genius that they're going to have trouble coming back. And Garoppolo, Chris, I mean, if you put a number 12 jersey on him, and I'm not comparing him to Brady, but when he dropped back and he sets up, you can tell he's been watching the guy for a few years. I mean, he has a lot of the same mannerisms and everything, and did not make any mistakes, Chris. And that's, again, a well-coached team like that gets a league and is very good in their own right. I shouldn't be surprised, but hey, I think the two of us learned something.
Yeah, indeed we did. And next, Bob, do the Browns need to accept what I believe Redskins fans and their front office already know, and that RG3 is just too fragile to play at the NFL level, Bob?
That's a good question, Chris. Banged up. First of all, we never knew if he was going to be a normal starter in this league. There was the comparisons to your Michael Vicks and everything. Can a guy like that play in this league? And if he does change his style, can he have the talent to stay as a starter and everything? But I think you make a good point. I mean, maybe the guy, that style of play, Chris, and just the level where he's at. As opposed to the college game, it may be one of those deals where he will never be healthy enough to play in the league and show exactly how good he really can be. We saw snippets of it a few years ago, but I think you make a good point. It may be the point where his style can't jive with the NFL game. And to answer your question, I might say yes. Yeah,
I think so too, Bob, unfortunately. And Bob, how impressive was Carson Wentz's debut last week for the Eagles? Guy goes 22 for 37, 278 yards, 2 touchdowns, a passer rating of 101. I thought, this kid's, obviously a big stature, and he's, got a lot of talent, and he's going to, eventually come into being, a really good quarterback probably in this league. But, and again, it's one game, it's one sample size. We don't want to go crazy over what we saw from one game against the Chicago Bears, but it's pretty darn impressive.
It was, Chris. If you had told anyone that Carson Wentz, again, would just play a clean game, and that's, the NFL, Chris, it doesn't matter if you're a rookie or not. It's playing these clean games. How many times have we seen guys throw 4 touchdowns and maybe 2 picks, and they're going to lose the game because it's not a runaway, and we know what turnovers can do in this league. So a guy like Wentz comes in, completes 22 passes with no picks, almost 300 yards, Chris. That's as good as it gets for almost a rookie. And, there's a sense of optimism in Philly. I know it's only one game, Chris, but again, usually rookies like this would come in and look like they're overwhelmed. He did not do that. So that was it's a good thing in Philly. I know they're very critical down there, and this guy went in there with a lot of pressure, right? I mean, it wasn't like it's just, there was pressure on this guy, and he produced. So I was impressed. Again, I'm not going to come to conclusions that this guy is their quarterback forever now, and nobody ever can unseat him now, but that's one hell of a start.
Yeah, it really was. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting, Bob. We'll talk about this more late in the show when Jim Everett joins us. But, as Goff went 1 and Wentz goes 2, right? Wentz now has a pretty nice game under his belt after week 1. Goff is, they've taken a different tack with him. It's going to be interesting to see when Goff is going to get his chance. If everyone watched that, the second half of the Monday night game and the egg that the Rams laid against the 49ers and Case Keenum and the struggles that he had, it's very hard for me to believe that Jared Goff couldn't have come in and done that. So it'll be interesting to see if their strategy changes any. And like I say, we'll get Jim's opinion on that. But, one game. It's only one game. But one sure looked good. So it's going to be interesting to see how their careers start to, parallel one another, because the comparisons, are always going to be there since they went 1-2. And speaking, Bob, of the Rams' effort in that Sunday night game, right? To me, it had to be an all-time low for Jeff Fisher, getting shut out 28-0, on opening night. They generated less than 200 yards of offense, and again, I'm sure Case Keenum is a very nice kid, but he certainly didn't look like a guy that I would want to have as my starting quarterback for much longer. But you look at what he did, where the Rams are at after that game. Now they go into, right, they're going to have their home opener. I don't know if I would have, if I could have asked the scheduling gods, if I'm moving into a brand new, but moving back to LA, it's going to be a big deal, the whole nine. Did you really have to give me the Seattle Seahawks defense to have to open up against and try to, get, generate some excitement with my fans? That seems to be like a tough call to have to make. But curious to get your thoughts, Bob, on the Rams. And, at some point, right, Jeff Fisher has, largely been a 7-win coach over the 4 years that he's been leading the Rams. At some point, if they look badly again, play badly again against Seattle, I got to believe the seat's going to get awfully hot for him.
I totally agree, Chris. Very disappointing, basically in the new city, and I know they were on the road, but you'd like to open up with a little more optimism to go home with and everything. But my goodness, Keenum completed half his passes, Chris, 130 yards. It was an ugly game if you watched any of it. Gabbert for the 49ers didn't actually play terrific either. I mean, neither one of them were near 200 yards. And Gurley just couldn't run the ball. I mean, you just wonder how long it will be until the young quarterback might take over. But all I could think, Chris, is that basically that the offensive coordinator is Rob Boris, and maybe the fact that when Goff he's very fresh, and maybe he's still learning the system. And if Keenum doesn't get it together quick, Goff is gonna learn in the fire, just like Wentz. And maybe that's the thing that should happen, because from what I saw of Keenum, there's going to be no optimism in LA if he continues anywhere near like that. So yeah, that was not a good way to start this season. And to answer your question, yeah, Fisher, a defensive-minded coach, but he's got to get some offense in there too.
Yeah, and again, they have Seattle this weekend, right? And then they go on the road. They're at Tampa Bay, who had a nice win, over the Falcons, last Sunday, and then they were at Arizona, Bob. I mean, it's not, inconceivable, right, that the Rams could, be 0-4 before, they come back home to play a Buffalo Bills team in Week 5. But I got to imagine it gets ugly if they come back and it's, they're 0-4, hoping to beat the Bills, who, oh, by the way, Bob, speaking of, coaches who are potentially on the hot seat already, right? Bills almost equally as inept in their Week 1 loss to the Ravens, losing 13-7. If the Bills lay another dud this Sunday and they play, the Jets, all right, obviously we know the history between, Rex Ryan and the Bills and the Jets. How hot does that seat get, Bob, if Ryan was to open the season 0-2?
That's true, Chris. One of those teams, Jets and Buffalo, one of them is going to be 0-2, and my goodness, two football places where it could get hot quick. But I think you're right. I meing, when you put up just a touchdown, and I hear here again, Rex Ryan is known as your defensive guru, and they could get beat 14-0, Chris, play a good defensive game, but they're going to start thinking, this guy's all defense and no offense, and in this league, you got to score some points. I don't care how good you are defensively. Sure, the defensive wins championships if you're healthy enough in the postseason. But, 7 points, and if they lay another egg, Rex Ryan will say, we got to get in here, a guy that we can always get a good defensive coordinator or whatever. We need a guy here that can lead and is offensive-minded. So I agree. I think, Rex, it can get ugly there pretty quickly, and I know our friends Christine Lisi and Angelo are kind of down in the dumps unless this team scores 20 points tonight. We'll see how it goes, Chris.
That's right. All right, everyone, like we do here every week on Thursday Night Tailgate, we want to send out a big hello and an even bigger thank you to our military personnel listening in around the world on the Armed Forces Radio Network. We cannot say thank you enough for doing what you do to protect all of us in our way of life. For everyone else that's listening in as well, we thank you too. We also hope that you'll join us in thanking the brave men and women serving in our military. If you happen to see any of our servicemen and women, out in your daily life or wherever you're at, right? Grocery store, airport, restaurant, wherever it is, please stop for a moment and tell them thank you. They are our true heroes. We also want to thank our veterans for your service and the sacrifices that you and your families have made for us over the years. Big thank you as well to Sean Cruz and all the great folks over there at the Armed Forces Radio Network. We are so honored that you have Thursday Night Tailgate as a part of your network. You can find our show by going to armedforcesradionetwork.org. And veterans, please continue to check out globalvoiceforveterans.org for news and articles that are both interesting and beneficial for you. They're geared towards our veterans out there. It is called, again, globalvoiceforveterans.org. TNT is brought to you by the great folks over at Kyvan Foods, which is owned and operated by our good friend and former Bengals and Falcons tight end and TNT Hall of Famer Reggie Kelly. If you want to be king of the grill this summer, it is a must that you use Kyvan Sweet Barbecue Sauce, ranked number 15 in the world right now by Barbecue Superstars. Their barbecue sauce is a must for the big games, for your tailgating needs now. It is available at select Walmarts and Kroger's throughout their eastern half of the country. 4 locations, online orders and recipes. Check out their website at Kyvan82.com. And again, Kyvan is spelled Kyvan. And if your local Walmart doesn't carry the Kyvan Sweet Barbecue Sauce, well, request it. I'm sure they'll be happy to add it to the shelves for you. TNT is also sponsored by Dr. Peter Candelora and the great folks over at Coastal Orthopedics. Folks, you hear me talking about it every week here on TNT. If you're dealing with joint pain, wherever it is, your shoulders, your knees, your elbows, your hips, your feet, don't just live with it. Do what the Gridiron Greats do to get relief, and that is contact Coastal Orthopedics. They can get you back to enjoying life. For more information, check them out online at bone-dr.com. Baseball, right? We're in the stretch run here now. So if you love the game and you're looking for a great family late vacation destination to go, you're going to love the Louisville Slugger Museum and Factory. They recently were welcomed into the TripAdvisor Certificate of Excellence Hall of Fame. The museum is a very cool experience for everybody in your family because you get to walk their live production line and see the bats being manufactured right there in front of you. Last week, you heard their executive director, Ann Jewell, talk about the Ripley's Believe It or Not exhibit, which is fantastic. Got some, kind of bizarre baseball treasures you get to check out. Don't miss the bat vault now. They have game-used bats from so many of the game's greatest legends. You get to see them from Hank Aaron and Babe Ruth, Ted Williams, my hero, Willie Stargell growing up. To find out more information about the museum and to book your visit, go to sluggermuseum.com. Please also check out our friends at the French Lick Resort. You want to talk about a fantastic place to stay and play golf or to simply relax and enjoy yourself. What a fantastic setting they have up there. 2 championship golf courses, one designed by Pete Dye, the other by Donald Ross. The Pete Dye course hosted last season's Senior PGA Championship. They just hosted the LPGA Legends Championship as well. The Donald Ross designed course was the site of Walter Hagen's PGA Championship victory back in 1924. Got a great spa. And, oh, by the way, my friends, a casino right there on the property as well. To find out more information and to book your stay, go to FrenchLick.com. And please, don't forget our friends at the Gridiron Greats organization. Please help a wonderful cause that's taking care of the guys who literally left so much of themselves out there on the field. Remember, folks, these are the guys who played way back when, before, they had anything like health care coverage, and they had to get off-season jobs to be able to support themselves and their families. It's organizations like this one that was started by Mike Ditka, the Gridiron Greats, that are there trying to help these guys that we all grew up watching and reading about. Please go to gridirongreats.org to see what you can do to get involved. All right, now back with us on the Kyvan Foods guest line and making his 4th appearance with us is Prairie View A&M head coach Willie Simmons. Let me remind you about Willie's background. He's from Tallahassee, Florida. In college, he played quarterback for 3 years at Clemson, finished his final season 2003 at the Citadel after wanting to move a little closer to home, be closer to mom. That 2003 season for the Citadel, he was named a first-team All-Southern Conference quarterback. In 2006, he went back to Clemson to start his coaching career as a graduate assistant on Tommy Bowden's staff. From 2007 to 2011, he moved over to Middle Tennessee State as their running backs coach and later their offensive coordinator. He spent 2012 to 2014 as the offensive coordinator for Alcorn State before accepting the head coaching job now at Prairie View A&M. Last season, he led the Panthers to a 9-2 record. They won their last 7 games in a row. This year, they currently sit at 1-1, and we are honored that Willie is back with us here on Thursday Night Tailgate. Good evening, Coach. Chris and Bob here. Thanks for coming back on the show.
Hey, Willie.
Oh, man, great to be on. Glad to be on, guys.
So, Willie, first of all, congratulations on your big win week 1 over Texas Southern and retaining the Durley Nix Trophy for a second consecutive year. Your Panthers, what a great second half performance, outscoring Texas Southern 23-8, going on to win 29-25. Your quarterback, Trey Green, and wide receiver Cadell Hodge hooked up twice for a couple of touchdowns in the second half. You had several different guys combined to rush for over 100 yards. The defense stiffened up in that second half. Talk about that win and the adjustments you made in the second half to bring it home.
Well, that game was full of adversity, Chris. We had 3 lightning delays. The game was supposed to start at 5 p.m. It didn't start until about 5:45, and then shortly thereafter had another hour and a half lightning delay. Resumed play, and then in the middle of the second quarter had another hour's lightning delay. So, again, 5 o'clock scheduled kickoff. We didn't end the game until about 11:15 that night. So again, 3 different delays. So the guys, had a lot of distractions. It was our home opener in our brand new stadium, a $61 million stadium. So there was a lot of hype surrounding that. We had a packed house. ESPN was there. So it was a really electric environment. And I thought the guys, after some early adversity, really, really settled down at halftime, made some great adjustments, and really just came out and played our style of football. The defense caused some turnovers in the third quarter. I think on 3 consecutive possessions we had 2 turnovers and a safety, and allowed our offense to kind of get rolling. So it was a great win for us, a great way to start our season against our in-state conference rivals. So we're sitting at 1-0 in the conference. We have a big conference game coming up this week against Alabama A&M to try to continue our quest for a conference championship. So proud of the guys, proud of their resilience, and just looking forward to continuing to grow and hopefully represent Prairie A&M at the highest level.
And Willie, as you mentioned, the new stadium. How was it? What was it like? And I got to imagine the atmosphere was, as you talk about the delays, right? The atmosphere was literally electric coming in there. But what was it like opening up your new stadium? And talk about the new digs.
It was very exciting. It's been a long time coming. Blackshear Field had been in existence since I think the 40s. Prairie View is the oldest school in the SWAC. It was one of the founding members of the SWAC conference back in, I think, 1925. So we shared a great long history in the SWAC conference, and we played on Blackshear Field since 1940 to 2014, the same field. So they knocked the stands down shortly after I got hired, began construction on it that January, and then completed the stadium about mid-August. And so we began to practice in the stadium during August camp, and again, it was a big time game, opening up the stadium there. There were a lot of people excited about it, everyone from the A&M system, all the chancellors from the system, the board of regents were there. Our president hosted a lot of people there, our athletic director. Every suite was filled. I mean, my office was used as a suite. So it really was a great environment for our guys. And, again, with those lightning delays, everyone kind of huddled up underneath the concourse and waited it out. And as soon as the play resumed, they came back out. So, again, 14,982 people were announced for a 15,000 capacity seat stadium. So it was packed. And it was a great environment. Again, just a great time for Prairie A&M with everything that's going on. Brand new football field. We just opened our brand new track stadium this year. We hosted the Olympic team there before they went off to Rio. We're just completing our soccer stadium, brand new soccer stadium. New bowling alley was completed last year with the rec center. So there are a ton of great things going on Prairie A&M's campus, and to continue to move our president's vision forward to make it a premier institution, not only academically but athletically as well.
And Willie, as you mentioned, you've got we look ahead to this weekend. You've got Alabama A&M. Last year it was a shootout between you two guys, right? You came out on top, 53-49. So as you look ahead to that game, should we expect more of the same? Do you expect another shootout, or did you guys learn something from last year's matchup to hopefully slow them down a little bit?
Well, the thing about last year's game, not making excuses about anything, but that was only their third game. That group had seen 5 coordinators in 5 years, and so they had never formed any type of continuity. It was still early in the season. Of course, we didn't have the luxury of having spring practice that first spring that we were there, so we were still trying to figure out who exactly to play in what positions. They were still trying to learn the scheme, and so the first half of the season was rough for us defensively. Luckily for us, we were able to score some points. with Trey Green and Jonte Abear and some of the other explosive players that we had until our defense kind of figured it out. And about mid-season, they began to hit their stride. So I think the last half of the season they held opponent to 7 points in the conference. A high-powered Alabama State team held to 13 points. I think Jackson State, who was really good on offense, we held them to 14 points. So the last 6 games of the season, I think the defense was one of the main reasons why we ended the season on a 7-game winning streak. And so we're a lot better now. We're year 2 in the system. Everyone understands exactly what we're doing now. We brought some transfer students in that are really helping us out. And so I feel a lot more comfortable about our defense and where we are. And I anticipate them carrying us until we can kind of come together offensively, because it's almost the reverse. Right now, offensively, we're kind of struggling a little bit to establish our run game and get our tempo going. But it's the defense that's kind of holding it down for us. And that's the way you want it. You want a strong, sound defense to where if you got to win a game 29-25 or 21-17, you feel comfortable that your defense can show up. And again, I'd rather win at 21-17 than 53-49 like we did last year. So excited that those guys are playing well, and I look forward to them continuing to grow, and I expect a huge performance from them this Saturday.
Bob, questions for Willie?
Yeah, Willie, it's always a pleasure to speak with you, and we prefer to focus on the positive on this show, as you know, Willie. But I know it was last weekend was a tough weekend for you guys, going up against a ranked A&M team in College Station. I know you're the kind of guy, basically, Willie, that will take games like that and turn them into learning experiences. Did you have any problem whatsoever, Willie, with team morale this week? How did the practices go? And tell us some of the things that your players and yourself might have learned from last weekend.
Well, that's a great question, Bob. And going into a game like that, as a coaching staff, you try to prepare yourself for the worst. They're a ranked SEC football team. I think they're ranked number 17 in the country right now. They have arguably the best defensive line in college football, with arguably the best defensive player in college football in Myles Jarrett. So we knew it was going to be a tall task going into there in the Kyle Field, one of the most historic fields in the country, the toughest places in all of America to play, and try to upset or play with an SEC caliber football team. So, for us, the biggest thing I wanted to come out of that game was that we competed. Our guys really fought and competed for 4 quarters. We didn't quit. We got down, gave up a couple of big plays right before halftime. We challenged the guys at halftime to come out and continue to play. It's easy being down 38-0 at halftime to just shut it down and say, okay, well, let's just start preparing for next week. But our guys didn't do that. They continued to score because, again, they are a good football team, but until that last snap, our guys battled and they competed. So I think we can take from that one thing that I always try to talk to my team about, and that's fighting through any type of circumstance, no matter how insurmountable the task may seem or the obstacle may appear. It's our job as human beings and as men to continue to fight and press forward. And we're not going to win every battle. The good Lord never promised that we would win every battle that came our way. And there's a lot of things to learn from defeat. And I think we learned some things this week or last week that made us better as a team and made us better as individuals. And we were able to capitalize on those things. And we had a spirited practice. Monday was probably our best practice all season after a big loss to A&M. So I'm excited about how the guys responded. I'm proud of them for their resilience. They didn't hang their heads. They continued to stay together. We didn't see a divide on the sideline, from any part, offensively, defensively, or in the kicking game. And that shows character. And so for our men, I feel comfortable that, if we got to come down to a tight ball game or even a game where we fall down early, that our team can stick together because we've been able to do both. Week 1, we had to overcome a deficit to come back and win. And week 2, we got beat pretty good by a top 25 FBS team. And the next week we came right back to work. So that's our mantra for us is work. We don't look at the scoreboard. We don't look at the stats. We just go to work. And so for this team, they understand to achieve our goals, that's what we have to do. And the good thing about it, like I told them in the locker room, our 5 goals that we set out for ourselves at the beginning of the season are all still there. Beating Texas A&M was not one of those goals. We want to beat all of our natural rivalries, which we have 3. We've already beat one of them. We want to win all of our home games. We want to win the Western Division. We want to win the SWAC, and we want to win the Black College National Championship. So all 5 of those things we're still in control of. So, for our team, there's no need to hang our heads. Let's just go back to work. Let's get ready to play the next week's game, and I think our team is ready to play come this Saturday.
Some great life lessons there. And And I've always been interested, Willie, on how different coaches run their practices during the week. I mean, do you guys practice, Willie, at the same time every day? Is it kind of the same routine every day? Do you guys, does the coaching staff get together and put together an outline before practices? Tell us about the normal routine at Prairie View.
Well, actually, for us, we have the same weekly routine. We don't practice at the same time every day. So Sundays are our players' day off. We give, of course, we have to give the players one day off per week where there are no mandated activities. And so for us, that's Sunday. They only have to come to treatment and check in if they played in the previous game. So we'll start the game plan as a staff that Sunday. We'll start breaking down the next week's opponent. We'll watch the film from the previous week, get all of our game grades in, and then we'll meet as a staff to go over how each individual played and try to make notes for if we play that team the following year. We'll make some game notes so we can look at them for the next season when we play them again. Mondays, we'll bring the team in about 3:30 to start watching the tape, about 2:30, matter of fact, to start watching the tape from the previous game, and then we'll have a team meeting at 4 o'clock. And at 4 o'clock that afternoon, I'll address the team, talk about the previous game, how we played, give out the superlatives, offensive, defensive, special team players of the week, special teams unit of the week, and then we'll get right into our scouting report for the next week. And our offensive and defensive coordinators give the scout reports each week. We turn them loose to eat, and then they come back at 6 o'clock that evening to start meetings, special teams meetings. And all 4 phases will meet special teams-wise, and then we're on the field at 7 o'clock for practice. Tuesdays and Wednesdays is about the same routine that we'll meet at 2:30 as position-wise, and we'll have a special teams meeting at 2:15, and then we're on the field at 3:20 with our pre-practice, and then we'll begin what we call flex stretching at 3:35. Actually, on Thursday, we practice at 6 a.m. We got a lot of guys who miss class on Thursday, have some classes in the evening, so we practice at 6 a.m. on Thursdays. The guys that come in, we play music in the stadium to kind of get them excited. We basically our perfect Thursday, so we go through our opening script, go through all of our situations, all of our kicking game, and we're out there for about an hour and a half. And then we'll come back that afternoon and meet offensively and defensively. And then Friday's a travel day for us. We'll do some meetings and some walkthroughs. And then, of course, on Saturday we're ready to play. So that's usually our routine week to week. And then, of course, we play a Thursday night game or a Sunday night game like we played the first week of the season. Of course, you adjust that schedule a little bit. But on a normal week, that's how we schedule.
Great.
We are talking to Prairie View A&M head coach Willie Simmons here on Thursday Night Tailgate. And, Willie, just a couple more before we let you go. You mentioned the word goals a moment ago. Do you set goals for the team beyond, obviously, winning the conference or winning every game, that sort of thing? But do you have other goals that you set for the team?
Oh, yeah, of course I do. I have some academic goals that we set. We have a goal to have the highest team GPA in the conference, and also to have the highest APR in the conference, single-year APR in the conference. We accomplished one of those goals last year. We had the highest single-year APR in the SWAC last year at a 975. The numbers haven't come out yet to see where we are this year. But, again, that's something that we always aspire to do as a football team. And we want to be champions on the field and in the classroom. And so, I got to tell them the worst thing in the world is for us to be holding up a trophy in Atlanta on December 17th for winning the Black College National Championship, and we come out with an APR score of 900. I mean, that would be a travesty. And so I'd much rather, have a high APR score and have a mediocre record than the other way around, because we understand the importance of being a true student athlete. We actually had Myron Rowe come talk to the team earlier this week. Myron Rowe that played at Florida State was a Rhodes Scholar, was the number 1 player in the country coming out of high school, but graduated Florida State with a 4.0 GPA. And he came and spoke to the team, just a true example of what a true student athlete looks like, So that's something that we always set out to do. And then we have, social goals that we try to meet. We try to do a certain number of community service hours during the year. We have a big community service project coming up the week of the Grambling State game up in Dallas. We'll go up there and go to a hospital. It's in the defense of the hospital. It's in the offense to a school to read to some youngsters. And, we're always trying to make the guys well-rounded. We want them to be more than just good football players. We want them to be good citizens, good men who can represent the university in a first-class manner, who can represent their communities back at home in a first-class manner, their families, and everyone who supports them. So it's my job as a head coach to make sure that we're giving these guys every opportunity to get exposure and to be productive, not just on the field, but again in life.
That is such great stuff, Willie. I can't tell you. I got a big smile on my face just listening to you talk about that sort of thing. You're such a wonderful, coach and an even greater person, 10 times greater person than you are a coach. Willie, remind our listeners again, how can they follow you and the program online and over social media?
Well, you can follow all of our news online at PD, as in Prairie View, pdpanthers.com. We try to do a daily report on the football team, practice reports. I have my weekly coaching show every Tuesday. We actually do it here at a Raising Cane's restaurant here in Cypress. Social media-wise, you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at HC, as in head coach, Willie Simmons. That's Willie Simmons, Simmons. It's just that HC Willie Simmons. And, of course, I'm not posting as much now because we're in season, but, I try to retweet things that I see, motivational things, statistics. We just got ranked number 19 in the country in tailgating. That was a big thing.
There you go.
Today. Great tailgating atmosphere at Prairie A&M. So, again, we're a little small school, northwest Houston, about 50 miles northwest of downtown Houston, but a lot of history, a lot of tradition, great fan following, great atmosphere for football, brand new stadium. So I encourage anyone who's in the Houston area driving up and down 290, to stop at the little school on the hill, and you'll see a great campus, a beautiful campus with new buildings and great technology, brand new stadium, and a very good football team. And, I just want everyone to support us. I appreciate you guys again for all your support. Always a pleasure to be on the show. You do a great job. And, again, just, can't be more proud of what you guys do and glad that I'm part of the team.
There you go, Willie. I hope you know how much we're rooting for you and your Panthers. You've come to mean a great deal to Bob and I over the last couple of years that we've been blessed to have you on the show. We are big Willie Simmons fans and Prairie View A&M fans as well. We hope you'll come back and join us again later on the season. Love to catch up with you and talk about all the great things that you and the team are achieving this year.
Oh, no question. Anytime. You guys know I'm just a phone call or a text away. I always enjoy being on the show, and of course, Thursday nights are perfect for me. Early morning practices, so I got a lot of downtime in the evening. So it's actually perfect timing. But got home and grab a bite, and we got an early flight tomorrow morning to Alabama, so we're gonna pull out about 10 a.m. To fly out to Huntsville. So
your family, we look forward to catching up with you again soon.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it.
All right, take care, Willie.
Take care, Coach.
Thanks, guys.
That is Prairie View A&M head coach Willie Simmons. Bob, I tell you, I'm sitting here listening to Willie tell the story, and how great it is, right? That they're making them well-rounded, men, from being, whether it's going to read the kids at schools or going to the hospitals or making sure that their GPA, and I love the fact, hey, we could win the national championship, but if we have a low GPA, across our football team, we really haven't achieved very much, and that's fantastic.
He puts it at the forefront, Chris, and this is a guy that doesn't cut corners. I mean, you can tell it in his voice, and he is the ultimate definition of a coach, Chris. Let's face it, guys from A&M. There are guys from A&M. Then there's going to be a lot more guys from A&M going on into the pros and stuff. If you get to the pros from Prairie View, it's a long shot. And Willie probably knows that. He definitely knows that. But he's training these guys to be competitive at their level. And like you said, the most important thing, to be good men in their community. And, hey, I can't say anything more about it than that, Chris. That's why we're here.
That's exactly right. All right, we're going to get to our next guest, Tony Collins, and we'll do that on the other side of this station identification.
This is Christine Lisi, and you're listening to Thursday Night Tailgate, where NFL stars go to tell their stories with Chris-Mascaro and bob-lazzari on the Armed Forces Radio Network.
Now back with us on the Kyvan Foods guest line is Patriots Pro Bowl running back Tony Collins. Hey, Tony, how are you tonight, my friend?
Hi, Tony.
How you guys doing? Doing fantastic?
Absolutely, good. We are. So, Tony, you're off to a nice start in our 5-star picks of the week. 3-2 last week. You were right on Cincinnati over the Jets, Kansas City over San Diego, and your Patriots over Arizona. Though I don't believe for 1 minute you actually thought the Patriots were going to win that game, but you picked it, and nonetheless, you were right, and you were 3-2. And Bob and I also 3-2. So after 1 week, we all remain level. if you go back and we look over some of the other things, I was the only one who got Denver over Carolina. Likewise, Bob was the only one to correctly pick the Giants over the Cowboys, and he and I were both right. We're all right, with the on the Cardinals. All three of us took on the Bengals. All three of us took the Bengals. He and I were both wrong on the Cardinals. So 3-2 across the board after week 1. So no blood after the first week. So we'll see what we can do this week. Our first game, Tony. We're going to start things off. We'll go with the 1-0 Bengals going to Pittsburgh against the 1-0 Steelers. The Steelers are a 3.5-point home favorite. The over/under is 48.5. Who do you like here, Tony?
I tell you what, man, the Steelers looked very impressive against Washington last week. Quarterback, receiver, running back, all full throttle right now, man. They're awesome right now. I can't see Bengals coming into Pittsburgh beating them this week. So I'm going with the Steelers by 14, 28-14.
Wow, by 14. All right. Bob, what do you think?
I agree with Tony, Chris. I don't think they can go in. I mean, they did go and beat the Jets, of course, last week. It was a very close game. Pittsburgh's on a different little stratosphere than the Jets, and I just think the Steelers, again, you and I have them going really far this year. I'm with Tony. There's going to be at least a 10-point victory. I'm going to go 30-17, Chris, Pittsburgh.
All right. And, guys, of course, I'm going to be a homer here. I'm going to pick the Steelers as well. The Bengals have turned this game, they turned the dirty switch on, if you remember, at the end of last season. So far, the last couple of years, they've hurt Le'Veon Bell twice. They took out Antonio Brown in the playoff game last season, which nobody has forgotten, especially the Steelers and the Steelers fans. So the refs, here they're on high alert for this game, according to the NFL Senior Vice President of Officiating, Dan Blandino, because of the bad blood, between these two teams. Guys, $200,000 in fines have been handed out over the last two meetings between these two teams. So the refs are going to be calling this one pretty closely. And but I agree with you guys, boy. I was so happy, looking at the Steelers offense. Boy, they sure looked good. Got off to kind of a slow start, a little sluggish in the first quarter, but certainly turned it on after that. And what's impressive to me about that is, again, they're doing it without Le'Veon Bell and Martavis Bryant. Both of those guys, out for suspensions this year. Martavis all year, Le'Veon Bell 2 more games. But, Heath Miller's retired. They had their other wide receiver, Marcus Wheaton. He was out, but Sammy Coates and Eli Rogers come in with some clutch catches, and Ben Roethlisberger, Antonio Brown. You want to talk about one of the all-time great combinations out there? Those guys were unbelievable. And D'Angelo Williams, what a great night he had! 143 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns. I'm sure it's not going to be that easy this week against the Bengals. I'm sure it's going to be a bit of a struggle. But I'm taking the Steelers too. Like I said, I'm going to take them 34-27. So I think they cover the spread, and I'm going to take the over. I think the offense is going to kind of rule the day a little bit in this game. So we all three go Steelers. Game 2, Tony. The 0-1 Colts go to the 1-0 Denver Broncos. The Broncos are a 6-point home favorite, which seems like a ton of points to me with a young quarterback back there. But they're a 6-point favorite. Over under 46.5. Who do you like here, Tony?
The Colts can't beat the Lions at home, so that's telling me something right there, man. They're going into Denver with Denver's defense. There's no way they're going to go up there and beat Denver. So I see this maybe even being a blowout with Denver's defense, probably getting about 3 turnovers and maybe scoring a touchdown on defense. So I'm going 34-17.
All right. Bob, how about you?
Broncos.
I'm with Tony again, Chris. I can't see the Colts going in there. I mean, the Colts defense, you talk about suspect. Even with the young quarterback, Chris, you still have that good defense in Denver. And with the young quarterback, only put up 21 points last year. I think they'll score more this week, and the Colts are just going to give up too many points. You're talking Denver. I think it might be pretty close, Chris, but in the Mile High Air, they come out. Let's say Denver wins 31-24.
All right. And, Trevor Siemian, talk about a young quarterback. I think he did a nice job last week. He seemed pretty poised for his first start. I was impressed with that. Again, a very good, Carolina Panthers defense. So nothing to shake your head at. Boy, they were there. Obviously we know how good they are. But 18 of 26, 178 yards and a touchdown. He did throw a couple of picks. but I thought he looked really good. C.J. Anderson looked pretty good, 92 yards and a touchdown on the ground. He had 4 catches for 47 yards and a touchdown, on some check down throws from Simeon. So, and to your point, Tony, the Denver defense, how great are those guys? Sacked Cam 3 times, hit him 8 more times, held him to under 200 yards passing, picked him off once. So, that Denver defense is obviously good for a lot of things, and you may be right. They may be good for a touchdown on their own this week. Andrew Luck, now he had a good game last week. Let's not turn our nose to Andrew Luck. 385, 4 touchdowns in a hard luck loss, if you will, to Tony's point, against the Lions. So, but those are some pretty strong numbers. I don't think he gets anywhere near that against the Denver defense. So I'm with both of you guys. I think Denver wins this game. I don't think they cover. I think it's going to be close. That 6 points is a lot to me. So I'm going to take Denver. I think they win at 27-24. So they don't cover, and I'm going to take the over in the points as well in this one. Tony, our third game, we're going to go the 0-1 Dolphins going up there to your 1-0 Patriots. The Patriots are a 6.5-point home favorite. The over-under is 42. Tony, any chance the Dolphins can ruin the Patriots home opener?
Come on, man.
That's your answer.
Yeah, I guess so.
I can't remember the last time Tannehill beat New England in New England. It's been a while. So, we don't have any superstar players. They need to rest Gronk again this week, because we really don't need them. Rest them up, get them ready. Man, I'm going to tell you, the way we played last week against Arizona, I mean, on third down situations, we were like over. I don't know how great we were on the percentage was, but it was very high. But we got Belichick. He's going to come up with a game plan that's going to just. It could be 2-14.
42-14, and the Tony Collins blowout special of the week. It's Patriots 42-14. Bob, is that too many points? Is it going to be any closer than that?
I think it's going to be around there. I mean, I really do. Tony hit it right on the dot. You got a guy like Belichick. We talk about him more than any other coach we've ever talked about. Him as being responsible for the wins as much as the players. And yeah, this team is going to come back home. Now they know they possibly the best team in football, and now they're going against the mediocre Miami team. Chris, I'm going to say maybe a little closer. I'm going to have it 38-20 New England.
All right. Now, fellas, let's not sell out the Dolphins too badly here, right? I mean, they had every opportunity to win that game last week up in Seattle, by the way, and they held the Seahawks to 12 points. They intercepted Russell Wilson once. They forced him into another fumble, sacked him 3 times. So I think their defense is coming along. I think they did a pretty darn good job at keeping that game close. I think where the question marks raised, and you guys talk about the few points the Dolphins are going to score. It's on their offense, and it's Ryan Tannehill, right? Guy was 16-29, so barely over a 50% completion rate, no touchdowns, though we did run one in. They brought in, Arian Foster to be their lead running back. He was held to 38 yards on 13 carries. But again, it's against the Seattle defense. We expect that from them. The Patriots, you look at, their defense last week, they allowed 5.6 yards per carry to David Johnson of the Cardinals. He had 89 yards on 16 carries, scored a touchdown as well. So Foster may get a little more running room against the Patriots. And, we talk about, young guys at the top of the show, Tony, young quarterbacks that looked impressive last week. We talked about, a moment ago about Simeon, but, Carson Wentz looked awfully good. Jimmy Garoppolo, pretty impressive, 24th out of 33, 264 yards and a touchdown. So he looked pretty darn good. So I'm with you guys here. There's no way the Dolphins win this game, but I think it's going to be a little closer than what you guys have it. I got the Patriots, winning it by 10, 27-17. So I think, I say they'll cover, and I'm going to take the under in this game. 27-17 Patriots. We all go Patriots. Couple more to go. Game 4, Tony. Our next one is the 0-1 Saints going up to the 1-0 Giants. The Giants are a 4.5-point home favorite. The over-under is 53. Who do you like in this one, Tony?
I think it's going to be a shootout, man. Every time I remember the last time Saints and Giants played, they must have put up about 80 points between the both of them. It's going to be a high-scoring game, but I feel that the Saints may pull this one out with their quarterback situation. I just like Saints quarterback over the Giants quarterback just a little bit better. So, go with the Saints. Winning by 3, but high-scoring game, 45-42.
Wow. All right. Bob, what do you think?
Shootout.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I believe it's going to be a shootout, and a lot like the game the Saints played last weekend. I'm going to have the Giants come out ahead in this one, Tony. I'm going to have, if you watch the Giant offense, man, they have a heck of a lot of weapons on that team. I mean, Manning has mediocre games. This team can score 30 points. And against the Saints, like Tony said, they play some wild games. I'm going to have the Giants winning this. Breeze throws for 400, but they lose 35-31.
All right. So, yeah, it had to be brutal for the Saints to put up 34 points last week and still lose at home against the Raiders, 35-34. Breeze, to your point, Bob, outstanding. 423 yards, 4 touchdowns. Willie Snead and Brandon Cooks had 172 and 143 yards receiving, respectively, and they ran the ball for 4 yards a carry. So the offense looking very good for the Saints. The defense, not so much, right? They gave up 486 yards of offense, didn't sack Derek Carr once or cause any turnovers at all. So the question is going to be, right, to what you guys are saying, whose defense do you believe more in? Who can get at least a stop in this game? And, if I had to go with one of the two defenses, it's going to be the Giants. They did a good job. Ezekiel Elliott didn't do much last week for the Cowboys, 51 yards on 20 carries. Dak Prescott, nice, 25 of 45, 227. Not bad for, a guy who was sort of thrust in there to the the starting job on only a couple of weeks, getting his mind right for having to take over that job, but he's not Drew Brees. So the Giants had no sacks on Prescott, only hurt him 3 times, so not a lot of rush there either. But again, if I'm going one defense over the other, I'm going to take the Giants. So I'm with you guys. I think this is a high-scoring game. I'm going to take the Giants 38-35, so they don't cover, but I'm also taking the over. So Bob and I with the Giants. Tony goes Saints. Our last game this week is the 1-0 Eagles going to the 0-1 Bears on Monday Night Football. The Bears are a 3-point home favorite. The over-under is 42.5. So, Tony, can Carson Wentz become the favorite son of Philadelphia and start out 2-0 as the Eagles starter?
It's going to be a Monday night game that nobody wants to watch. Eagles and Bears. Come on, man.
Wow. Don't go to Philly anytime soon, Tony.
They boo anybody.
Let me tell you, Jay Cutler, when Jay Cutler first came on to the team, I thought he was going to be one of the best quarterbacks to play the game, man. I just don't know what's going on with him. He just seems to never come through in the clutch. So I'm going with the rookie quarterback. Just got to go with him. I think the Eagles' defense is a little bit better than the Bears' defense. So Eagles on top by a close game, 24-21, Eagles.
All right. Bob, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a close one. They're getting on Cutler already, Tony. It's not pretty there. But I think the pressure's on them to score more than a couple touchdowns like they did last week. They're going to put too much pressure on the defense if this keeps up. I think Wentz comes down to earth a little bit, Chris. I'm going to say that the Bears can pull it out at home and kind of keep hopes up at least for another few weeks in Chicago. I'm going to say the Bears win an ugly game. How about 21-17 Chicago?
All right. So, Bob, when I look at this game, it could be one of those, flip a coin kind of ones because of, you can't bank on Wentz yet after one good game. But though I'm excited by what I saw from him, and I think he's going to be a heck of a quarterback. So we'll be interested to see again. Wentz 22 of 37, 278 yards, 2 touchdowns last week. Jordan Matthews had a nice game, 7 catches for 114 and a touchdown. Now the Eagles defense did allow 120 yards rushing, 5.7 yards a carry last week against the Browns. 37 of the yards were to RG3, but Isaiah Crowell had a 5.2 yards per carry average. So, there's some room there to run against those guys. But I look at this Bears team, and again, to your point, Tony, Jay Cutler, 16 of 29, 216 yards, a touchdown, a pick, sacked 5 times. His quarterback rating 76.2. It's hard to get excited about the Bears and Jay Cutler. It just seems like this is the same story over and over again every year. So, I'm gonna go Eagles here in the upset. I'm gonna take them to upset the Bears 24-20. So I'm taking the over there. So again, upset. So it's the point spread goes to the Eagles. They are an underdog in this one, but I think Carson Wentz pulls it out, and they're holding an early parade for him after 2 games in Philadelphia. So, Tony, before we let you go, remind everyone about the great things you're doing to help kids go to college.
TonyCollinsProjects.com, TonyCollinsFoundation.com, helping as many kids as we can go into college on our scholarship fund. Man, it's just a great time. We've already been talking to a few kids that are enrolled in our ranked choice program, and they're doing well in school right now. So we're looking forward to, again, next year doing the same thing. So TonyCollinsFoundation.com, TonyCollinsProjects.com. Thank you.
Great stuff, Tony. Best of luck with your picks this week and your fantasy team. Nice 1-0 start in week 1 with a win over Reuben Drone. So congratulations there.
I'm going to win the fantasy league, and I'm going to beat you 2 guys in this thing like this.
Never lacking for confidence. Never.
Indeed. Tony, take care, my friend. We'll catch up with you next week.
Have a great week.
All right, guys.
That's former Patriots Pro Bowl running back Tony Collins and our 5-star picks of the week.
Hi, this is former Rams QB Jim Everett, and you're listening to Thursday Night Tailgate, a.k.a. TNT, and it's explosive in here with my buddies, the hosts, Chris-Mascaro and bob-lazzari, and we're listening to all this on the Armed Forces Radio Network. So take it away, Ben.
This is the time to play legendary golf at French Lick Resort. Book one of our money-saving packages like the Hall of Fame package and play our Pete Dye and Donald Ross courses. Stay in historic luxury at our French Lick or West Baden Springs hotels. Relax in our spas. Dine in our restaurants. Have some gaming fun in the casino. Or just rock on our rambling verandas like they did 100 years ago. Go online to FrenchLick.com and book your legendary golf getaway now at French Lick Resort.
Now back with us and making his 3rd appearance on the Kyvan Foods guest line is Nesby Glasgow. Let me remind you about Nesby's background. He's from Los Angeles, California, played his college ball at the University of Washington, where he was a 2-time All-Pac-10 and All-American selection. In 1978, he led the Pac-10 in punt returns, and he still is listed among the University of Washington's record holders in the longest punt returns and punt return yardage. His teammate was Warren Moon at Washington, and they were a part of the 1977 team that beat Michigan in the Rose Bowl. He was named to Washington's All-Century team. He was an 8th-round draft pick by the then Baltimore Colts back in 1979. Played in the NFL from 1979 to 1992, again with the Colts and the Seahawks. And over that time, he played in 205 games, recorded 9 sacks, 15 interceptions, recovered 17 fumbles, tallied nearly 2,600 return yards, and he scored 2 touchdowns. And we are honored that he is back with us again tonight on Thursday Night Tailgate. Hey, Nesby, Chris, and Bob, thanks for coming back on the show.
Hey,
how you guys doing tonight?
Oh, we're fantastic. Thank you. So, Nesby, I wanted to start off our time with you by talking about your alma mater, the University of Washington, off to a 2-0 start. Should be 3-0 after this weekend against Portland State, but we never want to get ahead of ourselves. They haven't, as you look forward to, a little bit later in the schedule, conference play starts next week. They've got, games at Arizona, then home against number 7 Stanford, and then 22nd ranked Oregon. So, curious to get your thoughts. How do you feel about your Huskies this season?
Go Dogs! No, I feel excited about the Huskies. I think what's great about the Huskies is that the games they are supposed to win and dominate, they're playing up to their level. They're not taking anybody lightly. They are a very disciplined team, and they are a very physically talented team. They have a lot of outstanding players on their squad, and right now they're a force to be reckoned with. I mean, they're not a team that's highly ranked, because they've been a powerhouse or anything like that. The thing about the Huskies is that what I've seen from those guys is that they play hard each and every play on that football field, and they're making plays. And I think when you start making plays the way they're making plays, and you start to expect that, and you become that team that, nobody expects to be as good as they are playing right now. And, they have one of the greatest college coaches in the league, Peterson. I mean, he has a similar coaching style to Nick Saban. He gets his players to trust him. He gets his players to realize that I do have your best interest at heart as a coach. And those guys play as hard as they can for him, for themselves, and for their teammates. So, being around them, they're excited about this year, but they're taking everything one game at a time. And I think that's the first thing you need to do when you start talking about being a champion, is taking it one game at a time.
So, Nesby, as I was looking back through the game logs for you and your time in the NFL, your first career interception comes against my Steelers back in 1979. It was the fourth game of your rookie season. The game was in Pittsburgh. Both Bradshaw and backup quarterback Mike Kruzik played in that game, and both ended up throwing picks. I'm curious. I couldn't find out which one of those guys did you pick off?
Bradshaw.
Is that right?
Oh,
you can
find it and look it up and everything. So it was Bradshaw.
So tell me, what do you remember about that day and going into Three River Stadium back at the time, going against a Steeler team that would go on to win the Super Bowl that year?
For me, it was almost a overwhelming moment. Time I knew I needed to go out there and compete, and so I just felt fortunate that the conversation I would always have with myself is that even when I was in college and the NFL, that I was going to make the big boys, the old guys, prove to me that I couldn't play with them. And, I think because of that mindset, I was able to start as a freshman. Because of that mindset, I was able to start as a rookie. And, just to, be on that field, and seeing guys that I idolized, I had to really forget about that and just focus on me being the football player that I believed I was, and go out there and compete. And I will say this, getting an interception from Terry Bradshaw, that was one of my highlights. I didn't get a whole lot of them, but that was one of my highlights because, he was somebody that I truly respected and I knew for sure would be, a first ballot Hall of Fame quarterback and all those things because, the Steelers were the dominant football team. They ran plays from formation, and everybody in the league knew they were going to run that play, yet we couldn't stop them.
Mm-hmm. And Nesby, you talk about playing against the big boys, and you played against a lot of great quarterbacks from that era, not just Bradshaw. We had the Richard Todds from the Jets and Joe Ferguson in Buffalo and Steve Grogan in New England, guys you played a couple of times a year when you were with the Colts. Talk about some of the favorite stories you had from playing against some of the legendary quarterbacks of the 80s.
Well, I think playing against Dan Marino was always hard work. But it also was fun because you knew he could make so many accurate throws from, different positions, and his release was so quick. And, he was the guy that I thought, at one point was the best quarterback in the league. And then when I went to Seattle, Denver had this strong arm quarterback, and he used to throw the ball, and it sounded like a baseball. But he wasn't the first quarterback whose football sounded like a baseball when he released it. I played with Bert Jones my rookie year. And Bert Jones broke so many fingers because his ball always sounded like a baseball when he released it because it had that much speed on it. And so, when you look at how hard those guys throw the ball, you say to yourself, wow, really? But those three guys, and I'm having a senior moment right now, but those three guys are the guys that I think left the biggest impression with me in terms of, being all around good quarterbacks that could make all the throws that a quarterback needed to make and could always do them at a high level.
Bob, questions for Nesby?
Yeah, Nesby, it's great speaking with you again. And Chris and I always love to talk to guys who return kicks. And you did both punts and kick returns early in your career, Nesby. And it seems like not everybody was able to do both. I I mean, some guys are kick returners, some guys were punt returners. It seems to have gotten more specialized. I still think it's one of the more exciting plays in any football game. But tell us maybe the difference, Nesby, in the two. Are they two different skills, or can the right guy do both still?
No, they're two different skill sets. Kickoffs, returning kickoffs, were always more physical. You had more horrific hits. It's a bunch of maniacs running down the field trying to get at you. And you knew that. I think the biggest difference for me, at least, is that when I returned punts, it was like slow motion until I caught the ball. Whereas on a kickoff, as soon as I caught it, I knew I had to haul ass and get going. But on the punt, once you catch it, you have a feel for who's around you, and you can kind of set people up and you see things. And to me, it was that slow start, that relaxed moment that I had. Guys running down the field hollering at you on a punt, but I could always just really focus on catching the ball, and then as soon as I catch the ball is when you take off. And I think, that when you're doing a kickoff, guys are in the craziest mode ever. Punt, you're going to usually always make that first guy miss. If you are a decent punt returner, you need to always make the first guy miss. So that was part of the plan anyway. You make the first guy miss, you have time to look around, and you can dart and dash. On the kickoff, you make one wrong move, one wrong turn, and they may be picking you up, cutting you off. It's just there are by far more horrific hits on kickoff returns than punt returns. And the difference is that, you have to be able to start from 0 to 60 on punt returns. You have to be more elusive on punt returns than a kickoff. A kickoff is seeing a crease. Is more like a running back. You can set guys up and hit the crease and go. Whereas a punt, you're just on your own. Like once you catch the ball, it's you against those guys. You have your teammates blocking for you. You can set up, but it feels like you against those guys.
And Nesby, I want to talk about Baltimore as a football town. I mean, I had been down to the old Memorial Stadium many times, but all to watch baseball, and I just thought it was just a great venue. It was almost a neighborhood-type setting, and parked across the street in a dirt parking lot, and it just seemed like just a neighborhood place. And my goodness, those old Oriole teams were fun to watch too. But how did you enjoy the 5 years there? Was it a welcome thing of you going?
I'm going to have to break your heart a little bit.
Okay.
The stadium itself was antiquated. Part of the end zone was asphalt. If it rained outside hard after the game, we couldn't shower because the locker room was flooded.
Wow.
So it was a stadium that really, wore out its welcome. It was time to blow it up or do something, But I have to respect the mayor because he chose to do more for the city than he did for the football stadium. And so, at that time, I mean, there's no way I don't think a mayor would make the choice that the mayor at the time in Baltimore did. But he chose to really revitalize the city and spend that money on trying to repair neighborhoods in Baltimore. And so it was kind of a no-win situation because, Indianapolis made that decision, if we build a stadium, they will come. And they were absolutely right. So they built the stadium. We couldn't get the Baltimore mayor, the members in this department to put the money behind the coach to revitalize the stadium and at least, make it comparable to some of the stadiums that we were playing in when we left Baltimore. And, just timing-wise, it was either rebuild the stadium or lose the team. And he decided to not rebuild the stadium. And I don't think he ever thought that the coach would leave. But, in the dead of night, it was snowing. I'm watching the news. Comes on 10:30 in Washington, D.C., because their news came on 30 minutes early, reliable source. The Colts are leaving. The guy taps his ear, hold everything. I have confirmation. There are Mayflower trucks out in front of the Colts complex. I'll be back with a live station feed after break. As soon as I heard that, I jumped in my car, rode over to the practice facilities, and sure enough, there were Mayflower trucks out front. I went to the locker room. The locker room was in disarray. I walked upstairs, all the stuff scattered everywhere. It was a complete mess. And by the time they probably got an injunction, those trucks were in Indiana. So it's not like they were coming back. So they did it in the dead of night. No one on the team, at least as far as players and coaches, knew about it. And next thing we knew, we were in Indianapolis.
So that was really just, it caught you all by surprise, no idea that, something was in the works or something was going to happen. All of a sudden you just happened to be glancing at the news and boom, all of a sudden your team's leaving town?
Well, what happened was for about those last 3 years, from about 80 to the time we moved, we were either moving to Memphis, we were moving to L.A., we were moving to somewhere in Florida. We're always moving. So, there wasn't a big deal because I didn't think we were moving, because I just had signed a contract and moved from Redmond, Washington, back to Reisterstown, Maryland. Bought a little townhome there. Got my family, my kids, and wife there, and thinking we're gonna spend some time in Baltimore. And next thing I know, we're moving. And
wow.
We ended up in Indianapolis, and I had a great time in Indy. The fan base was good. The city itself was good. It was a good time. But, I think I'll always miss Baltimore because, they were the first team that gave me an opportunity. They took a chance on me. I broke my ankle in the Senior Bowl, and there are a lot of teams that didn't think I was going to play again. And, their whole deal was that, we don't expect you to play your rookie year. And, maybe it was foolish on my part, but I told them, if I can play, I will play. And, fortunately for me, my body healed itself quick enough, quicker than most people thought. And I was able to go out there and compete and, in the end, win a spot and start part of my rookie year. So I was excited about that, too, because, it was always that dream, for me at least, not just to make it in the NFL, but to actually, like I said earlier, prove to those guys that I can play with them. So, I would have never been satisfied with just being in the NFL. My goal was to get there and start. So to have that happen my rookie year, that was a blessing and a prideful moment for me as well.
We are talking to former Colts and Seattle Seahawks defensive back Nesby Glasgow here on Thursday Night Tailgate. Nesby, just a couple more before we let you go. The circus that was the 1983 draft, the way it became with John Elway and the eventual trade to Denver. When you were with the Colts, did that have a ripple effect on the team, or was it just something you guys watched sort of play out over the media?
It was really something we watched play out over the media. I think, we didn't really know what was going on. We ended up getting a great player and Chris Hinton, but there's no question we lost a greater player. So it was just one of those things where, when we think about it, it's always, what might have been, if he had stayed a part of our team. So, when you look at what Elway was able to do and bring about in Denver, there's no reason why he could not have done the same thing for us. But at the end of the day, people make choices in life, and he didn't want to come to an organization, I believe, that was dysfunctional as ours was at the time. We just weren't, I don't think, a team that was going up. We were always causing our own issues. We would draft guys that, maybe were questionable in terms of their character and stuff. So, and it just didn't work out. Year after year, we didn't get better. And, if that's the case, then, you need to really look at who are making those choices and decisions to bring guys in. And, at the end of the day, we didn't do a good job of that. So,
Nesby, before we let you go, tell our listeners, what you're doing now and about the charity trip that you've got coming up.
Well, thanks a lot. Years ago, I met a guy from Ireland. His name is J.P. Cohn, and, we were talking about doing some things together. And I told him that, one of the things that I would like to do, if you're talking about doing trips, is figure out a way to get involved with athletes that have charities to help them raise money. And so what we've been able to do is put together trips for athletes. They get a charity with a 501c3, and we'll set them up on a nice trip. To give example, on November 14th to the 22nd, we have a trip scheduled to Italy. It's going to be led by Chris Dolman, Chris Carter, who are Vikings, and then Bruce Smith and Andre Reed, who are Bills. And we're going to spend, 7-8 days in Italy. And we're hoping to get some fans from the Vikings, fans from the Bills to join us. And you need to go to executiveglobaltours.com to sign up. It's a great trip. It's $4,500. The trip is valued at around $7,000 because our $4,500 trip does include air. It includes air from New York, so you have to get to JFK in New York. And other than that, it's going to be a fun-filled event. And the charity that's going to be the beneficiary is Warriors for Freedom. So look at their site. They've always taken care of families who have had, a mom or a father, lose some type of extremity. They go to war, fight for this country, and they don't come home. They don't come back whole. And so that's a charity that's near and dear to Chris Dolman. And it would be great, to get some of the fans to go hang out with us, play golf, take tours. We have a bunch of fabulous tours set up. Ferragamo, Maserati. So it's not just about golf. It's seeing all of Italy, having a great time, hanging out with some great guys that the fans have always cherished and respected. Great football players. And it's one of those events that, that you get to talk about and take pictures with, all of us and enjoy. So it's one of those moments that, if you have the time, I would say join us because it's for a worthy cause, and you're going to have a great time. I guarantee that.
There you go. Nesby, remind our listeners, how can they follow you, whether it's online or over social media as well?
Oh, my goodness. I'm Nesby G, Twitter. I am, what is my Facebook? Oh, Nesby Glasgow is Facebook. Just pull up Nesby Glasgow and ask to be my friend. And say you listen to this radio show, and I will make sure I friend you.
There you go. Nesby, thank you so much for taking time out of your night to come back and be a part of the show. We hope you'll come back and do it again later on in the season, share more of your stories and insights with us. Tell us how the trip goes. We look forward to catching up with you again sometime.
Well, I tell you what, let's make sure I get back on your show after the trip, and I would love to get back on your show and just talk football.
There you go. Thank you so much, Nesby. We look forward to catching up with you again real soon. All the best to you and your family, my friend. All
right, Chris. You take care. Good night.
All right, take it.
Take care.
That is former Colts defensive back and Seattle Seahawks defensive back Nesby Glasgow. And Bob, you want to talk about a really great cause that they're trying to raise some money for. Warriors for Freedom. They do a lot of great things for our wounded veterans out there. We can't thank that organization enough for the things that they are doing. Just like we can't thank our veterans and our current military personnel serving around the world for all the things that they do for us every single day.
Yeah, Nesby is on board with that, Chris, and we love having him as a guest. A very straightforward guy. 14 years in the league, Chris, probably very, very underrated player. Hardly missed many games in his career and did it all. Kick returning, punt returning. His versatility probably kept him in the league that long. He was just a very good all-around player, and we always loved having him on. Can't wait to speak with him again.
Absolutely. All right, before we get to our next guest, Jim Everett and Jennifer Kadlitz, I want to give a shout-out to our good friend Renee Shull over at Career Engagement Institute. And, folks, if you're upside down in your career, and what do we mean by that? You're ready to move on, right? Go to careerengagement.institute online to see how Renee can help you. You heard Toy Cook here on the show not all that long ago singing Renee's praises, and if you work with her for 2 minutes, you're going to understand exactly why Toy did that, and we brag on Renee every single week here on Thursday Night Tailgate. We all want to work with someone who we can trust and who actually has our best interest at heart. And you know how rare it is to find someone who fits that description. Well, you're not going to find anyone that does it better than Renee Shull does. She is smart, creative, very talented, the kind of person you want to work with and have working for you. She is doing great things for some of our guests who have been in transition to being pro athletes and are now getting into the job market. Folks, I'm telling you, Renee is just the very best. There isn't a better way to describe her than that. If you're an athlete or anyone in the job market, do yourself a favor and reach out to Renee. You're going to be so very glad that you did. Go to careerengagement.institute online. Give her a follow on Twitter @IntegratedPlay and send her a happy birthday wish because it's her birthday this Sunday. Renee, I know you're out there listening. Happy birthday, my friend. We can't thank you enough for all the wonderful support you've given us over the years. So happy birthday to you. Hope you have a great birthday come this Sunday. All right, now back with us on the Kyvan Foods guest line and making a record 15th appearance with us here on Thursday Night Tailgate is former Rams Pro Bowl quarterback Jim Everett. And along with Jim, we've got another great friend of the show, Houston Powers, quarterback of the Women's Football Alliance. And the combination of Jim Everett and Jennifer Kadlitz are two of the biggest trash talkers in the Thursday Night Tailgate Fantasy Football League. No one talks more trash than these two, outside of maybe perhaps Angelo Kane, which is crazy because at least Jim and Jen are usually at the top of the standings, and Ange wins about 4 games a year. But perhaps these guys are being a little humble with us this week since I gave Jim a beatdown last weekend and Jennifer lost to Ainsley Battles. But I'm sure they're both licking their wounds a little bit, but I'm sure they'll come out fighting again this Sunday. Hey, Jim. Hey, Jen. Thanks for coming and joining Bob and I on the show.
Hey, guys.
Hey, guys.
Hey, good to be here.
There you go.
So, Jim,
hey,
before we get into...
I'll tell you what, Chris, before you get into it, you're more windy than Al Michaels with all your stuff going on right now. I'm telling you, you're full of it right now.
I appreciate you pointing that out, Jimmy.
Yeah, I'm telling you. Yeah, I mean it's crazy, Jen. I mean they get one win and we can't shut them down. What do we got to do, Jen?
I really don't know. I don't know what they're talking about. I didn't think we were that much of trash talkers.
Holy cow, the two of you! I mean, they could start a sanitation company with the amount of trash that you two talk. Holy cow, you kidding me?
I don't know
it's
what
all in good spirit.
Yeah, of course it is. Don't be silly. So, Jim, before we get into all the fantasy football stuff, I wanted to get your thoughts on what you saw from your boys, the Rams, on Monday night. A tough performance to come out of the gates with, but what do you think, and what are you looking for them to do differently as they get their home opener now against the Seahawks on Sunday?
Well, it was. I think they ran into the perfect storm. To be honest, I mean. We all saw the Monday night. We had to listen to Steve Young talk about trying to be neutral. That wasn't too cool. But anyway, can we have Chucky? Do we really have to have Berman on for Monday night? Come on. But seriously, going back to the game itself, not the announcers, but it was a team Monday night. I don't think people realize Monday night is such an intense game, more playoff caliber type, and they came up to Chip Kelly defense that was going to go to a pressure defense. I don't think they were prepared for it, and I don't think they were prepared for the noise. And it's a young team, and they just laid an egg. I mean, there's no two ways about it. It's embarrassing, but, the bright side of the whole thing is, boy, did we get an extensive look at a Pro Bowl punter. About 15 times we saw him. And he's good. I mean, if you're into punting, you just thought that was the best, right?
A lot of practice, yeah.
Exactly right.
I'm sure he had to ice down after that game.
And Jen, I know what a Peyton Manning fan you have been over the years. So curious, on the opposite side, what are your thoughts about what you saw from Trevor Siemian last Thursday night against the Panthers?
I was pretty impressed. I'm not going to say he's a Peyton Manning, but he completed a lot of the short passes. He tried to get rid of the ball, and I know he had one pick, but overall, I mean, I thought he did pretty well leading the team and, probably completing what his coaches wanted him to do.
And Jen, Bob and I both picked the Chiefs and the Raiders to come out of the AFC West and be playoff teams. But, we know that Denver obviously has a great defense, and, we'll see what the progression of Simeon looks like. C.J. Anderson, who did a great job for me and my fantasy team this past weekend, obviously had a nice game against the Panthers last Thursday night. But do you think, does Denver have enough with Simeon and to ride C.J. Anderson and ride that defense to another division win, or at least get themselves in position to be a playoff team? Do you think they take a step back this year?
No, I think they have enough to get at least into a chance to get to the playoffs. We'll see how he develops, and I'm hoping he gets better every week.
And Jim, if you're Jeff Fisher right now, and the Rams have been a 6 or 7 win team over the last 4 years as he has been head coach. If Case Keenum doesn't play better than what we saw, on any level here, what we saw from him this past Monday night, can you afford not to go to Goff and make that switch and have him get in there sooner rather than later?
I think every talk show, the lights have been lighting up about the Fisher, Goff, Keenum, the whole thing about that whole the whole thing up there. If I looked at that Monday night game, it was an entire team loss. I mean, I saw a defense that eventually lost their composure, and they were on the field way too long. There's no doubt about it. But, Keenum wasn't good. I don't think if you put Goff in that situation, I don't think he would have been good either. I think that Rob Boris, who's offensive coordinator, I think he's kicking himself in the butt for not, moving that quarterback around, not stretching the field, going deep. I mean, there's a bunch of different things that I think that they didn't get to, which I think they'll get into. So, in the famous words of Aaron Rodgers, relax. I think if everyone just relax and let them play. It's a young team. Let them get out there and be men. Let them get their feet wet. Let them go. Case is going to be okay. Yeah, I'm sure if they lay 3 more eggs, there's no doubt you're going to see major changes. And who knows what that is, because everyone in the NFL, your job is to win. And that goes from coaches to players to whatever. But I don't think you press the panic button after one game. I think that's just craziness.
Yeah. Bob, questions for Jim or Jen?
Yeah, Jim, you'll have to excuse me. It's ladies before gentlemen tonight, but you'll always be known as Gentleman Jim Everett on this show. You know that, right?
you are, Bob.
Wow,
you
don't know.
A gentleman. I will bow to Jen all the time. Go.
Jen, I want to add, Chris had mentioned Peyton Manning was a quarterback already that you looked up. I want to know over the years, Jen, other guys that you've looked up to, learned from, and some favorites.
Okay, well, starting to watch football, Jerry Rice was actually my favorite receiver. I started out playing receiver, and definitely, his attitude, his work ethic, great hands. I don't have the speed, but, everything else I was trying to emulate Jerry Rice. I also liked Marvin Harrison. He was one of my favorite receivers. As far as quarterbacks, probably Marino. And my grandma used to talk about Bob Greasy all the time. So she kind of told me how good he was. And
good Purdue boy.
Yeah, there you go.
We would remember him well. We're making us feel old, Jen, but what can you do? We are old, right, Jim? Oh, well. Hey, Jim, I want to ask Jim about...
Hey, wait, I don't mean to step on you, Bob, but I got to ask Jen a quick question. Jen, I know you talked about you got injured with your knee. How'd that offensive coordinator position go for you?
Oh, pretty good. I enjoyed running the offense. The problem was we really didn't have a throwing quarterback, so we did a lot of running. But, getting my feet wet, I thought we did pretty good.
Did you break out the shovel ball, the shovel pass?
Yeah. I'm going to continue. I'm going to continue coaching the offensive coordinator and see what happens this year. We're going to move a couple people around. We do have a few girls with some arms this year. So we'll see what happens.
Good.
And, Jim, I want to get your opinion. Jim, this week we've heard a lot about Cam Newton supposedly taking shots and headshots. And surprisingly, Jim, Cam is one of the guys that's not talking about it as much as others, such as his father and other guys. And Cam is like, it's a physical game, and I'm here to win. But as a quarterback and a guy that probably would rather be protected than hurt, Jim, what's your whole thing about this? Is it being overblown? Is he taking more shots than he should? And what's this guy going to be like in 5 years if this continues?
Well, they changed the rules of the quarterback back in 1996, so that was near the end of my career. So the stuff that Cam's getting was pretty normal stuff for our day and age. But considering what the rule changes are, I totally understand, and I think with the NFL trying to up the game with the offense, I think that's understandable, and yeah, he has a right to be concerned because they shouldn't be taking those hits. But I don't think Cam's going to be the guy holding that baton, because I think it makes him look weak. He may complain about somebody, but he's not gonna do that on the radio. He's got other people that can handle that, and he's got the league. So I don't think that's his job is to go out throwing the balls. And at some point in time, everyone has to play by the rules, and which are the newer rules in the 2000 and beyond. And it's a throwers league.
All right, let's talk a little fantasy football now. Now, Jen, you put a lot of faith in guys like Blake Bortles and Jarvis Landry, Marvin Jones, Spencer Ware. The latter three seem like a little risky. Talk about sticking with guys that maybe you shouldn't have, or confidence that you've gotten those guys that they're going to come around and get you off the schneid this week?
Well, let me tell you this. I think Bortles did a great job. He had over 300 yards and a touchdown. Jarvis Landry, 7 receptions. You never know how many yards they're going to get. I think my problem this year was, this week anyway, I didn't score any touchdowns. The only player that I had that scored a touchdown was Spencer Ware. And, you can never tell. They may get tackled on the 1 yard line. They may go in to score. All my guys could have gotten touchdowns. I would have won. So I'm really happy with my team. I'm not going to change anything. And my defense, 23 points. Come on, Minnesota, good job.
Yeah, they're your best player. Jim, you took a 15-point beatdown from me last week, and this week you got to go up against Ainsley Battles, who beat Jen, this past week. I see you're sticking with Ezekiel Elliott, at least so far. Talk about, you picked up, Tajay Sharp, a wide receiver from the Titans. You got him in your starting lineup. Seems a little risky. Tavon Austin targeted 12 times last week, but you got a little hesitation there going against the Seattle defense for him. What do you expect to do differently or better this week?
Well, one of the things I did differently, which I think that, our league has done some of the other leagues, because we get points for return yards. So guys that are punt returners or kickoff returners, we can get a point for, every 20 yards. So, you're going to see in my lineup some guys that are not only special teams contribution guys, but also, possible number 1 and number 2 receivers. And that's kind of the strategy I went with this year. And so far it didn't pay off. I could see in, the Ram games, Tavon Austin had a 10-foot circle but he caught a ball, which could mean more points. But of course, down by 15. But if you would have told me before, Chris, that C.J. Anderson was going to get, almost 20 points or 18, whatever it was in our league against a Carolina defense, I would have laughed at you. But he did it, and that was the thing that helped Denver with such a younger, inexperienced quarterback. I remember coming in and handing the ball off Derek Dickerson when I first showed up. Life's pretty darn easy when you got a guy like that. And, having CJ back there, just go off, that makes it a game, and you're always in it. And so I think that's a key thing, and that's why I look at a guy like Gurley, is that, if as soon as they get things open up, get him going, and we stretch that on our offense, when I'm talking about the LA Rams now, is I think you're gonna be able to get some bread and butter things. It's just got to get to that.
Yeah, to that point, Jim. If you look again, it's Seattle. We all know what a great defense they have, and you got to believe that Seattle's going into the game against the Rams saying, "Look, we're gonna take Gurley out of this game. Gurley's not going to be the guy to beat us. We're going to make Case Keenum beat us." And again, going against the Seattle defensive backs, and we know how good those guys are as well. So you got to go a different direction, do you not? There's got to be a different wrinkle or something in that game, right? You can't just hand the ball to Gurley 30 times.
No, if you don't, we get to see that punter another 15 times, right?
Right. We get to look forward to that.
No. Yeah, of course you're going to mix it up. And another storyline is Pete Carroll gets to come back to the Coliseum and play. You know, he was coaching down here at USC, and so I'm sure he'll be excited to come back. And I know the city of LA is excited, and we haven't talked about that, about having the NFL back in the city. So, you know, that's crazy fun. And of course they're going to wear the throwback colors this weekend. So I mean, there's a bunch of fun stuff. Yeah, is Monday night going to linger over for a little bit? Yeah. Do expect different. I noticed in the preseason, the Rams, when they went on the road, they didn't play very well. When they played in the Coliseum, when they had their 12th man, if you want to call it, they played really, really well. So, you know, that's what I'm anticipating this weekend.
Yeah, and to that point, Jim, you know, is there a 12th man for the Rams at the Coliseum? We had Rusty Hilger on the show a couple of weeks back, and Rusty was, you know, with the Raiders when they spent some time in L.A., and he talked about, you know, not having much of a home field advantage because at the Coliseum, you know, the fans are so far away from the field.
Oh, he played for the Raiders. Does that even count?
I'm sure it counts.
I mean, hey, I can say that about L.A. Those are fighting words. Come on. So I'm just, you know, he played for a different team, different era. I mean, we're in a time when we've been NFL crazy hungry, and we're getting a team come back, and I can guarantee you there's going to be a 12th man. When you have 90,000 people coming to a preseason game, it makes a difference. When Kansas City came and we had almost 80,000, that's exactly what Smith talked about, was he was not prepared for the noise. And I guarantee when the Rams went up on Monday night, it was playoff sound up there. So, you know, I think the fans are involved. Even today, I was sitting there watching the game. It's going on right now on Twitter. How cool is that? I mean, you know, all these different things that are going on. There's a lot of things to love about this league, and you know, it's kind of neat to, you know, be right in our backyard again.
Is the new stadium still on track for 2019? Is that when they're looking?
Well, I know I just saw a thing where they're going to start digging in a month or a couple months. So, yeah, they say it's on track, and they've got the Super Bowl lined up. But yeah, it's a great spot. It's going to be, you know, most of the time it's 60 acres in just the stadium, but Stan Kroenke's got 300 acres right there. And they're going to make a whole complex that is going to involve some NFL property stuff and, you know, 364, 7 days a week, a place to come for fans. So it's going to be an entire business park, and it's going to be pretty cool.
Bob, more for Jim or Jen?
Yeah, Jen, I want to ask Jen about, I mean, we talked to Jim about the different sports that a football quarterback might have played in the past, and I just want to get Jen's background as far as other sports that she played, and did she think it contributed to her success in football?
In high school I played volleyball and softball and basketball, and I did 1 year of track. I did softball the most, you know, the hand-eye coordination. Like I said, I started off as a receiver and ran good routes. I have good hands. Like I said before, I'm not the speed receiver, but I'm more of a possession receiver. And when our quarterback retired on the power, we needed somebody to play quarterback, so I stepped up.
And last one for Jim. I want to ask Jim. Jim, Chris and I are big on the always big on the Patriots, but also the Steelers this year. Jim, we're talking the fact that Roethlisberger probably, we always say he's in his prime, but this guy just doesn't seem to want to go away, and seems to get better. But they have everything in place, Jim, barring any more suspensions or anything. But without injury, do you think they can go pretty far, Jim?
You know, I think the question is going to be up their defense. I do like the Steelers. As a matter of fact, there's a guy in our league that should be changing his team name to the Pittsburgh Steelers, and you know what I'm talking about, Chris? I mean, if he could line up all his fantasy guys as Pittsburgh Steelers, he'd do it. So here I'm talking to the biggest Pittsburgh Steeler, fan. I mean, I guarantee it. But do I? I think Roethlisberger's throwing such a good ball. Brown is so good. Le'Veon Bell's so good. Their offensive line's doing good. I think the question is, can their defense continue to, can they match up against a team that has an offense like that? Can they match up against the Green Bay Packers? Can they match up against, Arizona and shut them down? And so those are the questions that are going to be going on through this year. And I think that's where the question mark's going to be for them.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to say one last thing before we get out of here. Jen, we're in our little Thursday night fantasy football. When you're playing teams and you see the guys that all these other guys are getting. And by the way, I can't leave Ange out of it because he let the computer draft for him, which did way better than he'd ever do by himself. But when I got a game against Jen, it's like, oh my gosh, are we gonna? So I'm telling you. I think you put the fear of God in all this group to come after you, and I think you keep everyone on their toes. So I appreciate you being in this league and keeping them going, Jen.
Oh, thank you very much. And I just picked up Jesse James, and I think he's going to do a hell of a job for me. I don't know what's wrong with Ertz, but here comes Jesse James.
Is that right? Now, from your lips to God's ears in real life, Jen, because, I need Jesse James to be, a good Steelers tight end to take over for Heath Miller. I don't know if I have a lot of faith in him at this point yet. I think he's certainly got a lot of potential, and he's a big body. He's got to learn to block a little bit better, but he certainly could get you a touchdown.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I was watching him in the preseason, and, they were going to him a lot. He was catching everything, but then I saw, these defensive ends just blow right past him. So I think he needs some work on defense, but I think he'll be all right.
All right. So before we
Jen, rumor has it that Chris has black and gold bed sheets. Have you heard that one?
Can I confirm that for you? Will you feel better? I'll confirm that for you. If you want, I'll show you a picture if you like. But of course I do. Why wouldn't I?
You got like the yellow and black obnoxious striped ones.
Not stripes, but they got Steeler logos all over them. So I mean, it's close.
Not the bumblebee one.
No, I don't have the bumblebee ones, and that's of all the jerseys that I don't have, and I got 100 jerseys, but I don't have a bumblebee one. I read that this is going to be the last year for the bumblebee, so they're going to go to do something else. But I do like the new blackout uniform that they've got coming out for the color. What do they call it? The color out or the color rage or something along those lines for the uniforms this year. So those look pretty cool. Look for them. But yeah, this is the last year for the bumblebee against the Jets. That'll be the last time we see it, at least for a little while.
Chris, thank God.
Thank God, yes.
Is it? But that's not one of those. It's so ugly, it's cute things. No.
No.
Well, all right, Jen. I'll take your word for that. Before we let both of you guys go, Jim, we'll let Jen go first here. Jen, let all of our listeners know, how can they stay up to date with the things that you're doing, and whether it's on social media somewhere or online.
We're on Facebook, Houston Power, and we also have our website, HoustonPower.com. It should have the schedules up. We don't start our games until April, but we're going to be having practices starting pretty soon. So.
And it's the Houston Power of the Women's Football Alliance, so check it out online there. Jim, I know you're doing. Are you still doing the pre and post game shows for the Rams?
I did that in the preseason. We're going to be doing some other stuff with CBS here, on and off for fifth quarter stuff. So, I'm just kind of freelancing, having a good time, showing up, seeing a bunch of gigs with the Rams and our fans, and just enjoying the whole NFL experience coming back to Los Angeles. So, you can find me on Twitter, Jim_Everett. Doesn't mean I'm going to follow you, but go ahead and do that.
Gentlemen, Jim.
Just put that right out there. Wow.
Yeah, I don't. And and then on Facebook I have a page, and I post some, kind of fun stuff that's, a little different. But, life's fun, guys, and I really appreciate being on the show. Chris, Bob, you guys always do a good job about being positive. I did want to say one thing before you let me go, and I know the time's running close, but on that Warriors for Freedom, Chris Dolman and Andre Reed, two of the best guys ever. I guarantee that will be life of the party. I mean, those guys are just fabulous fun. So if you do go on that, I think that's, there's some quality guys on the road trip. So that'd be fun.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks for throwing that in there, Jim. Jen, thanks so much for continuing to be a part of the show. We look forward to catching up with you during the course of the year. Maybe we can we'll talk a little more fantasy football. Hopefully, as I'm 6-7-0. You guys are mired down there at the bottom of the standings. The meek shall inherit the earth this year. So maybe it's time for a little reversal. You guys always at the top, Ange and I always at the bottom. Maybe we flip that thing this year.
You're talking so much stuff. It's not.
Oh my gosh. We'll see.
All right. We'll check in with you guys later. Thanks for being a part of the show. We'll catch up soon. All the best to you and your families. Take care.
Bye, Jen.
All right.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
That is Jim Everett and Jennifer Kadlitz of the Women's Football Alliance and the Houston Power. Obviously, Jim Everett of the Los Angeles Rams. So, Bob, every year those two right at the top of the standings, and just the belittlement and the trash talk and everything else that comes our way is absolutely unbelievable. The only thing and I'm sure you can imagine it with Jim. Don't let Jen fool you. For crying out loud, always with the trash talk. But I guess when you can back it up, it ain't bragging.
That's right, Chris. That is a pair, as we say, that can beat a full house. Those two, and they're great. I mean, what a pair of bookends. And I kind of leave the fantasy stuff to you, Chris, because you guys are in the league, and I told you this before. None of my fantasies involve a pigskin, Chris. So I leave that kind of stuff to you. So yeah, they're terrific. And Everett, 15 times, huh? He's something. He's
yes.
I don't know if anyone's going to ever catch him, Chris. I don't know.
No. All right. When Bob and I come back, we'll be turning on the Thursday Night Tailgate Spotlight on the Positive, and then we'll wrap up the show, and we're going to do that on the other side of these words from our friends over at Coastal Orthopedics and Kyvan Foods.
Are you suffering from chronic pain in your shoulders, hips, knees, or wrists? Tired of living life with an old injury that just won't go away? If you answered yes to either of these questions, we can help. At Coastal Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, Dr. Candelora and his fine staff of medical professionals will get you back on the road to recovery. Their state-of-the-art facility and attention to detail will ensure you will be enjoying life again and feeling invincible in no time. Since 1991, Dr. Candelora and Coastal Orthopedics have been specializing in joint replacement, arthritis, and osteoporosis care, as well as pediatric and adult general orthopedics. Visit us on the web, www.bone-dr.com, or call our Newport Richey office just north of Tampa at 727-848-1417. Proud sponsors of Mike Ditka's The Gridiron Greats Assistance Fund.
This is Reggie Kelly, former Cincinnati Bengals and Atlanta Falcon tight end, and I'm the owner of Kyvan Foods. And if you enjoy delicious food, you're going to love my Kyvan products, which consists of our honey apple salsa, sweet barbecue sauce, and an array of seasonings. For store locations, online orders, and recipes, check out our website at www.kyvan82.com. That's KYVAN 82.com. One taste, and you'll appreciate the goodness.
We're back here on Thursday Night Tailgate, and we're turning on our spotlight on the positive. Bob, who do you have for us this week?
Oh, Chris, I think we may have mentioned it before, but it's since we're in a Steelers frame of mind tonight, I have to, and we mentioned him earlier in the show, D'Angelo Williams, Chris, and the great things he does on the part of breast cancer, which is it's very close to my heart, Chris. I lost my mom to breast cancer back in 2007. And reading more about what Williams has done, of course, you remember he made the news big time, I think, in 2014, where he actually paid for 53 mammograms down in North Carolina for people that were going through things. And he has his own foundation, Chris, and has worked very closely with the Susan Komen Foundation. They do the Run for the Cure and various things. But he's been very, very hands-on in that, Chris. Raised close to, I think, $400,000 just for the Coleman affiliate down there. But he continues to do things like that. He is another guy that is not just a figurehead. He's out there. And he's done commercials, Chris, and has got a lot of video views and has just overall brought a lot of awareness to the continued fight against it. It's nothing that we don't know about. But, again, if you go to his website, it's great stuff. D'AngeloWilliams34.org, and read about. And again, Chris, as you know, he's still very productive on the field, and great guy, great player, and has had a great career.
Yeah, absolutely. And, boy, you couldn't have been more impressed with, what a great game he had this past Monday night. But you know what, Bob? I bet you just like Willie Simmons, D'Angelo would tell you if he could do great things to help, find a cure for breast cancer, that would trump everything he's ever done on a football field or an athletic field. So I'm sure very similar to Willie in that respect. Bob, tonight I want to put the spotlight on the positive on New England Patriots defensive end Chris Long. Last year, Chris traveled over to East Africa and was shocked by the lack of water in places like Tanzania that he saw. So he started the Chris Long Foundation, and its signature initiative is a program called Water Boys, and they are raising money to produce clean water over in East Africa. He funded the first project himself to bring clean water to Tanzania. He is also partnering with World Save International to provide clean water wells in Africa as well. So he's working with all 32 teams to fund 32 new clean water wells over in Africa as well. So, and Chris, in addition to that, cares very deeply about the homeless, and having been, with the St. Louis Rams for several years, he spent his time and resources helping the St. Patrick's Center there in St. Louis, which is a nonprofit that assists homeless individuals with things like housing, employment, and health programs as well. So an amazing guy, Bob, doing so many things for so many different people in such, disparate parts of the world, if you will, doing something, for folks, in his former hometown, right, in St. Louis, or at least the hometown of his former team, doing things there for the homeless and trying to help them find jobs and get housing and that sort of thing. Also take care of themselves from a health perspective, trying to get clean water and water wells over to folks in Tanzania and Eastern Africa. And I've got no doubt that he'll be doing some of the same things now for the people up in New England in the area, where he's going to be living and playing up there for the Patriots. So, an amazing thing. Chris Long, check him out there as well. The Chris Long Foundation doing some fantastic stuff. So kudos to both D'Angelo Williams for his efforts with breast cancer. Kudos to Chris Long for trying to do a lot of goodness, in the world, both, here in the States and for the folks over in Africa as well, Bob. Two great stories.
Yes, absolutely. And again, it's a heck of a way to end the show with guys that are doing such great things. And again, try to keep the negative stuff, at least on this show, out of the spotlight.
That's exactly right. We say it here every single week. 99% of the guys playing in the NFL or have been players, the NFL Alumni Association and the great players that, are the former players, are doing great things, right? They've been doing great things to make a difference in their communities all across the country. So tune in here every single week on Thursday Night Tailgate, because we're going to let you know the great guys and all the great things that they are doing to make a difference, all over the world. All right, Bob, it is time for us to put a bow on this episode, my friend. Our thanks again, to all the great guests tonight. Willie Simmons, boy, just can't thank Willie enough for all of the things that he has meant to us over the last, couple of seasons. To Tony Collins, to Rudy Reyes, to Nesby Glasgow, to, Jim Everett and Jennifer Kadlitz as well. So thanks to those folks for being a part of the show. And Bob, like I say every single week, it is great to get to share my Thursday nights with you, my friend.
Thank you very much, Chris. Same here, and again, we ended it with a bang with Everett and Kadlitz there, and and then some good stuff spotting on the positive. So I mean, it's always a blast, and the format just lends itself to still having a smile on your face at 10 o'clock at night, and that's a good thing, right?
There you go. I want to remind everyone, again, next week is our 5-year anniversary here on Thursday Night Tailgate, and we'll be doing our Guest Hall of Fame inductions. And, again, our 2016 class, we got LaVon Kirkland, again, who was our very first guest ever here on Thursday Night Tailgate. So very much appreciate LaVon for getting us off on a great foot. Our good friend Tony Collins, and all he's done for us over the years, will be inducting Tony. Paul Alexander of Root Sports Pittsburgh, been a wonderful friend and contributor of the show over the last couple of years. Former Chiefs wide receiver Eddie Kennison, who has joined us numerous times, and you go all the way back. Eddie Kennison was guest number 6 on this show, and we've got tonight's our 252nd episode. Eddie Kennison first joined us on episode 6, so it'll be a privilege to have Eddie as a part of our Hall of Fame class. Former Chiefs and Falcons wide receiver J.J. Burton, also inducting him. He's been a longtime friend of the show as well, and a guy, like I say, who is second all time to Jim Everett in appearances on this show. Former Saints and 49ers defensive back Toy Cook will be inducted as well. Toy, as everyone knows who's listening, Toy is really fantastic. And then we'll round out the night with another great friend, and that is former Chargers, Vikings, and Giants defensive back Vincey Glenn, who became very fast friends with, and we have a world of love for Bentzi as well. So it's going to be a really special night. We hope you'll come back and share it with us. I want to remind you, how can you follow us over social media? Well, we've got a Facebook page, Thursday Night Tailgate. Give us a like, interact with us there. That's important to us. Bob and I both have our own individual Facebook pages as well. Check us out there. You can find us on Twitter. I am at CT-mascaro. Bob is at Bob_Lazzari, and the show is at TNT Podcast. You can stream or download any of our archive episodes by going to our website, thursday-night-tailgate.com. Big thank you to our good friends over at Podbean who are featuring us as a recommended podcast on their app this week. So, please download the Podbean app, and you can stream or download any of our shows from on there. We've got nearly 200 episodes that you can check out there on Podbean. Also, thanks to our friends over at iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Blog Talk Radio. We're on Steaker, Spritzer, Audio Boom, Player.fm, SoundCloud. If you've got a favorite app that you like to stream content on about the NFL, we're on it. So please do a search for us, find us, let us know if you've got another app that you'd like to find us on, and we'll get on there for you as well. Bob, take us home, my friend.
All right, Chris. Look forward to that. It's always a special show. And, again, our thanks to our announcer, Joe LaGenusa, for the great job he does with our weekly intro and ads, and to James Brocato and all the guys from Painted Faces for our upcoming outro music. On behalf of myself and Chris, we thank everyone tonight for listening. We appreciate you all the most. Until next week, good night, Kevin. We miss you.